Namaste everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Ramanand Sagar Ramayan review from the Hindu Pod. My name is Pradeep and I'm the dad.
My name is Vishala and I am the daughter.
And how are we doing today, Vishala?
I'm good. How about you?
I am actually very excited. And the reason that I'm this excited is because we actually picked up listeners in the United Kingdom and Malaysia this past week. So for you guys, I would just like to welcome you aboard and we look forward to hearing from you. Of course, our email address, if you wanted to send comments or suggestions or even your own review to us, it's thehindupod@gmail.com. That's thehindupod@gmail.com. And talking about that, Vishala, we actually have some feedback this week. And last week I put out a call and I asked you guys to send us your opinions, and you all really responded and you did a very good job. So without delay, the first one comes from Mrs. T. And she is saying, wasn't the first meeting of Guha and Shri Raam when he was exiled in Dandaka forest? So as I was growing up, we primarily listened to the Shri Ramcharitmanas, which is the Tulsidas Ramayan. And according to Shri Ramcharitmanas, that is the first meeting of Shri Ram and Guha. But as we started doing this podcast and I started researching the other versions of the Ramayan, according to Shri Vedavyas's Adhyatma Ramayan, the first meeting of Shri Ram and Guha was when he was on his way with Lakshman and sage Vishwamitra to Mithila. So Shri Ram and Guha actually meets 3 times. The first time is on his way to Mithila. The second time is after exile. When he goes and he meets Guha, he actually spends the night at Guha's ashram. And Guha is so concerned about Shri Ram, he's so worried about Shri Ram that he stays up all night looking over him to make sure that he's okay. And when Shri Ram realizes this, he feels so close to Guha at that point that he considers Guha to be his very own brother. And he promises Guha that upon his return from exile, he will stop once again at his hermitage. And of course, on his way back, he stops and he visits Guha again. And after that is when he goes back to Ayodhya. So it's actually 3 times that he meets with Guha. So for reference, you can check Balkand of the Adhyatma Ramayan, and it would be in Canto 6 is where the first meeting of Guha and Shri Ram takes place. As I just mentioned, we picked up new listeners in the UK, and we actually have some feedback from a gentleman by the name of Richard in the UK. And he has an observation. He says that looking at Parsuram not being able to recognize who Ram is, it reminds me of ourselves. Having God in us and not being able to see Him in ourselves. And this is absolutely true. In each of us, there is a spark of that divinity in all of us. So when we come, the Lord takes avatar inside of us. He lives within us. When we look at each other, we should be able to see that divinity. This is why when we look at each other, we put our hands together, we bow, we say Namaste, or we say Jai Shri Ram, or we say Jai Shri Krishna, or Sita Ram. It is because we should be recognizing that divinity within the next person. It's a very beautiful thought. And were we to recognize that in the next person, all hate, all anger, all malice towards each other would disappear. Because what we would see is love between each other. We had another listener that sent us some links about Ravana being at the Swayamvar. I have reviewed the links. None of them actually gives a direct reference to where in Ramayana it is. I've continued to look, and I cannot find anywhere in the Ramayana itself where it says Ravana was at the Swayamvar. For me, it's still an open discussion. If any of you actually find in the Ramayana where it is, it doesn't matter which version of the Ramayana, please let me know, and I'd be happy to update that. But until I see it, I cannot really say that he was at the Swayamvar. So I am very sorry that I couldn't give you a definite word on that this time. But again, if I find it, I will definitely update with that information. So with having said that, it's time to begin our review. So Vishala, what episode is this?
Season 1, Episode 9.
And what's the name of this episode?
Marriage Preparations.
Marriage Preparations, and that is exactly what they do. The IMDb description says, King Janak sends word to Ayodhya to inform King Dasharath of the engagement of their 2 children. Overjoyed, the entire Ayodhya royal family come to Mithila to prepare for the wedding. After further discussion between the 2 royal families, it is decided that the 4 princes of Ayodhya will wed the 4 princesses of Videha, which is another name for Mithila. IMDb gives this a rating of 8.7 stars. What do you think, Vishala? Do you think it deserved 8.7 stars? That's a little bit lower than we've been seeing lately.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I personally, I don't think it deserved 8.7 stars. I think 8.7 stars is a little bit high for this one, but we'll talk about that a little bit later.
There were some things about it that were a little hard to understand, but other than that, yeah.
So the original air date of this was the 29th of March, 1987. And where can people view this episode of the Ramayana?
YouTube.
Yep, YouTube, and we will place a link in the show notes. And what are your overall thoughts about this episode?
Okay, it was good, but there was something I realized. So whenever I watch the episodes, it's hard for me to keep up with what they're saying and understand them. And I was I think that's because they're either talking too slowly or the subtitles, they're taking too long to say everything. The sentences are broken into multiple parts and they're talking really slowly, so it's hard to understand what they're saying. They don't show the full sentence in one line, so it's hard to understand what they're saying because you have to remember everything they say.
Yeah, but that could possibly be just the translation, right? Us having to read the translation and not being able to actually listen to it as it's being said to understand what is being said. I'm sure that if somebody was actually listening to the Hindi and they were able to understand the Hindi itself, they would have a different view on that.
Yeah.
For me, my overall thoughts on this, it's definitely a talker. There's a lot of dialogue in this. There's not a whole lot actually happening, but there's a lot of dialogue. And I can see why it gets a little bit lower rating because, there's no real story. There's nothing from the storyline of Ramayana that's actually happening. It's just, as it says, it's marriage preparations, and that's all they do all episodes. They just prepare for the wedding. So if you're ready, why don't you go ahead and start with the review, and I'll jump in wherever I can.
The episode starts with Bharat and Shatrughan, and they're walking into their parents' room, and they're happy. Yeah,
they are so excited to be able to give this news. And you can see the mischievous looks on their faces as they run into the bedroom.
I love Bharat and Shatrughan in this episode.
Yeah, so this is really the first time we really get to see Bharat and Shatrughan do a little bit of acting. The rest of the time it's really Shri, Raam and Lakshman. This is the first time we get to see Bharat and Shatrughan act.
And they did a good job too.
Yeah. I like Shatrughan. I like the character of Shatrughan. He doesn't say much as in Ramayana. Shatrughan actually has the smallest role in Ramayana that we get to hear of, but in the background he's very active. But whatever little they've given him, he does a lot with it. This actor is very good.
So King Dasharath asks what happened, and the boys they start telling him and their mother all the news. They start telling them that there's news about Raam, and right at the mention of Raam, Kaushalya she shoots up, and she's like I guess you could say concerned because she wants to know if something happened.
Yeah.
And they call KK into the room, and Kaushalya says that she wants to read this letter that was given to them by the messenger of Mithila. And the son, that I think is Bharat, says no because her tears of joy would wet the paper, so there would be nothing to read.
Yeah, he's not letting them read it because they are so emotional. You're going to ruin the letter. No, I'm not going to let you read it. And then he actually tells them, well, I have two messages. And one is from Vishwamitra and the other one is from Janaka. So which one you want me to read first?
Well, she says to just go ahead and read it out loud. Just hurry up and do it already.
Yeah, because she can't make up her mind. It's like, come on, just tell me what you have to tell me. Why you making all of this drama about this?
So they start to read. So they start explaining what happened, and they say how Raam is doing very well. He's defeated Tarka, Subahu, and Marich, and they went to Mithila where Sita's Swayamvar is taking place.
Yeah, so they give them a synopsis of Ramayana up to the point that they're at. Yeah, it was a very nice recollection.
And now he's going to be married to Sita. And both mothers, they start bursting with joy.
So I think this would actually be my favorite part of the entire episode. I love seeing Bharat and Shatrughan reenact the Swayamvar, drawing the bows and everything. That was so beautiful to see the two of them do that.
When they were explaining everything, they were like acting out everything like them. But the two mothers, they start crying on each other basically. Like they're I can't. So
yeah, so Kaikeyi is begging Kaushalya to please help me to calm down, right? And so pay attention to this, right? Pay attention to Kaikeyi. And pay attention to the love that she has for Shri Ram. Bharat is there, but she's showing you right here and now that I love Shri Ram just as much as anybody else. And this is a genuine feeling that Kaikeyi Mata has for Shri Ram. So when the time comes later on for him to go to exile, think about how much this is breaking her heart to be doing this. So in this episode, it shows you in a couple different sections Kaikeyi's love for Shri Ram, and it is something for us to actually pay attention to and be aware of.
So the queens talk about how excited they are to hand over everything to Sita and how they will soon be grandmothers. And Dasharath, he slowly puts up he puts up his finger and he's like, I'll be a grandfather too.
Yeah.
It was really funny.
Oh my God, this actor,
like
this guy that does Dasharath, I don't know what to say about this guy. Here's the thing, right? Raja Dasharath is actually a very powerful king. At one time, he rules the entire earth, right? So this is how powerful Raja Dasharath is. But this actor, the way he portrays Dasharath, he portrays him as a very weak and emotional person. Every time I see him, this is the way that Dasharath is being portrayed in this Ramayana. And I really don't like the way that he's doing it. So Kaushalya Mata, after all of this excitement, she reminds Raja Dasharath that you now have to go and meet with Raja Janak to make arrangements. And Raja Dasharath says that in all the excitement, he actually forgot. So now he has come back to his senses and he's ready to start acting in the way that he's supposed to.
So they meet in the court, and King Janak's messenger, Devavrat, asks Dasharath to bring his priests and relatives to Mithila. And Vashishta tells him to inform King Janak that they accept the invitation and the alliance between them is very good. Dasharath gives Devavrat permission to leave for Mithila, but before he does so, he offers gifts and jewels and spaghetti, apparently, to deliver them to King Janak.
Yeah, it did look like he was giving him a plate of marbles and spaghetti. Yeah, so as they're talking about this is one of the things I really liked about this episode. When we were growing up in Trinidad and the groom's side is coming to the bride's side, we used to say the Barat has arrived, and they use that term in this episode, and they use it several times when they talk about the Barat has to go to Mithila to attend the wedding. I was very happy to see that. After Devavrat gives Dasharath the message from Janaka, he asks him, so what's your next command? So he wants to know what is Raja Dasharath's plan. But Raja Dasharath says that it is up to the Guru to tell them what is next to be done. So he turns to Vashishta. So Vashishta says that on behalf of the city of Ayodhya and Raja Dasharath, we accept the invitation. He says the alliance will be very good and it will lead to a combination of two great powers. And remember, these are still kingdoms. There are still politics involved. And the union of two great powers like this is, of course, going to be very good for both of them. As Devavrat is ready to leave, Raja Dasharath gives him a message to give to his children. And he says that he sends his loving blessings to them. And he says to tell Shri Ram that he is living without Ram like a chatak bird or the cuckoo bird lives waiting for the star of Arcturus. So I was curious about this and I looked it up as to what this would mean. I couldn't find anything about the star Arcturus, but this particular bird lives his life, and he would not drink any water from any lake or any water that has touched the ground or anything like that. He sits and he waits with his mouth opened, and he's there just waiting for the rain to fall. And that is where this bird gets its water from, right? He doesn't want to drink any impure water. It has to come directly from the sky. And just as this bird is sitting there waiting for rain to fall so he can quench his thirst, this is what Raja Dasharath means, that I am sitting here without my Rama, just waiting for him to return. So Devavrat also tells him, Raja Dasharath, it is your right to call them children. But the world actually considers them the embodiment of courage and bravery. Even the gods aren't lucky enough to have children like them. And he is fortunate just to be in the company of Dasharath. Because imagine Dasharath has been able to raise children of such valor.
Dasharath turns to Vashishta and asks how to go about this. And he responds saying that after they finish praying to guardian Ganesh, then they'll leave.
Right, they start everything with prayer first.
Dasharath says that everyone in the kingdom should be invited to this event, and he orders for the commander to prepare the army.
Yeah, so he tells Bharat and Shatrughan, he says, invite all the kings around, invite all the ministers, invite the entire army, invite the residents of Ayodhya, and we're all getting ready to go to Bharat to Mithila.
So the scene cuts to a bunch of jewels and gifts being displayed, and it shows Kaushalya telling Sumant, Dasharath's chief minister, that all of this is to be donated. She explains how the Brahmins will be offered 1,000 cows and food and clothes will be given to the people. And she says how the Brahmins and seekers must be given so much alms that they will have no need to ask for anything else.
Sumant also tells her that Raja Dasharath has opened up the treasury on this occasion, and that before they leave, everyone should have everything they need so that they don't need to ask for anything more. She says that if anyone is in need, then the king has no right to celebrate such a personal event. And we look at today, politicians don't care about what the people need. as long as they have everything that they need, right? As long as they have everything that they want, the rest of us, it doesn't matter. And here we're seeing this is how the king is supposed to rule. This is how the king is supposed to live. If the king is living in luxury, then he should ensure that everybody else has everything that they need. It's a beautiful thought. It's a beautiful philosophy for us to live by.
She tells Sumant that when he gets to Mithila, to congrats Sita's mother for her and tell her to consider Ram her son. And then she says something that I find very sweet, which is that Sita will not be in Ayodhya as a daughter-in-law, but as a daughter.
Mm-hmm. So this is something that even today is practiced in our culture. When the bride and groom gets married and the groom goes to his mother-in-law's house, we see this all the time in our culture where he is treated with such utmost respect and love when he goes there. And the reason for that is not only that they like him. The reason for that is because I will treat you like a king. I will treat you the best that I can, because in return, I expect that you will treat my daughter with the same love and the same respect that I am showing you. So this is what we're seeing here. It's a part of that she's saying, you treat Shri Ram, consider Shri Ram to be your own son. And when Sita comes here, she will be like my own daughter. So this is an extension of that same thing.
The scene cuts to Dasharath and Mithila, where he and everyone is with him. And Janak welcomes them and explains how amazing it feels to be allied with the clan of Raghu.
Mm-hmm. Again, they started everything with puja. As they show up there, you hear all the mantras being chanted in the background, the flowers are being thrown and everything. Everything in our culture is always started with puja.
Vasishtha cuts in saying how it's the Almighty that decides all these alliances. It is by him that Ayodhya and Mithila are partners.
Yeah, there's a lot of banter here back and forth, and I thought that some of it was kind of overblown. Mm-hmm. You know, Janaka welcomes him and he tells him how fortunate Mithila is to have him. Dasharath tells him, no, I'm just simply following your request. You sent the invitation and then I came. And Janak now says, no, I am happy to be joining with the Raghukul clan. And they go back and forth with this niceties, you know. Thing. Like, you're great to know, oh, come on. I thought it was just too much.
I think that also made it a little bit more confusing as well to understand what was going on.
That's what I mean when I say I felt they extended this episode too long. Mm-hmm. And there were some things in there that I felt like didn't need to be the way it was. This is one of it.
So Vasishtha also says that they're equal. This is what makes them equal. And like you said, Janak says they're not equal. He is the daughter's father and he can't compare with them. Mm-hmm. Then Dasharath comes and says, no, Janak is the giver. He is the seeker of alms. He is less than the giver, so he can't compare with Janak. And so after all that, they say it's time for everyone to rest now and they'll meet again in the morning. Yeah,
I think Shaitan had enough of it as well. So he tell everybody, okay, you all go to bed. In the morning, we'll start this back.
The scene cuts to Ram and Lakshman rushes into the room and asks Ram if they could go meet their brothers and father that just arrived. Mm-hmm. And Ram says no, as they're under Vishwamitra's command, and they must wait for permission from him.
Right, yeah.
Vishwamitra then walks in and says that he's there to take them to Dasharath. And they arrive, and Ram, Dasharath, and Lakshman, they reunite again. And Dasharath bows to Vishwamitra, and then his sons bow to him. And then they bow to Vasishtha, and then their brothers bow to them.
Yeah, so there's always a hierarchy to follow, and that's exactly what they're doing there.
And they also go around and they meet everyone that was in the kingdom.
Mm-hmm. So Shri Ram makes it a point to go and welcome the Bharat as well. They have all come there for him, and he wants to show his appreciation to them.
Mm-hmm. The scene cuts to Ram massaging Dasharath's feet, and Dasharath asks if he missed Ayodhya. He also asks if he missed his brothers, and he must have missed their mothers. And Ram responds saying that he missed everyone and he was just focused on the task that was given to him, but he always felt that his father was always with him and guiding him. Dasharath says how he's so young and yet his ideals are so well thought of.
Yeah, he tells him that, look at you, you're so young and you think so advanced. And Dasharath tells her that I myself am not as advanced as that to be thinking like that. And Ram tells him that everything that I have learned from watching you. Dasharath tells him that everything he does for the good of his kingdom. And he does it because of the duty of a king. But Rama, everything he's done because of the word of his father. He does it in the service of his teachers. He does it to protect the hermitages and to protect the sages. That is why he's great. He didn't do anything for glory or for wealth, but he does it for the good of other people. He calls Rama the ideal son. He says that Rama, you are not only a joy to your parents, but you are also a joy to your ancestors as well. So Shri Ram tells him, it is a duty of every son, even if the father doesn't say it, to do everything to fulfill his father's wishes. And it is that duty that has been his inspiration throughout all of this. And of course, it is this same duty, the same sense of duty, that when Kaikeyi Ma commands him to go to the forest, even though Raja Dasharath doesn't want him to go, and Raja Dasharath tells him, disobey me, because Shri Ram knows that this is something he has to do to protect the name of the Raghukul and to protect the name of his father, that his father wouldn't have broken his word, he goes ahead and he does it. So this is a kind of a foretelling of what is to come in this one line that Shri Ram says.
The scene switches to Bharat and Lakshman, and he's telling Bharat what happened between Ram and Sita. And it's this funny bit where Lakshman is saying exactly what Ram said about him, all that stuff about him staring at the moon all night, and it was like someone threw a stone onto his mind's lake and waves of love are rippling through it, and Sita's image is in every wave.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm sitting here with the guy and he's telling me about his mind and ripples and all kinds of things. This is Rama, what's going on here? It was very funny.
And then Ram walks in and he's like, what's going on?
Yeah, he walks in with a big smile on his face, like he already knows you guys were talking about me, eh?
And so Lakshman stutters and he says how he was just telling Bharat how he met Sita. Shatrughan says how love wasn't taught the hermitage. How did he learn about it? And Ram responds saying that it was by nature. It was predecided by the gods what will happen.
Yeah, he says, so just as a mother loves, or just as a brother loves, and just as the waves loves the moon, these bonds are not created by man, but rather they're predestined. So this is how he explains love to Shatrughan, that this is something that has been predestined, that has already been written in the stars. And he continues to tell him about when he finds the person that he loves, he says, it's in this way that when you meet the one that you are to marry, it is vital that when you meet the one of your destiny, that you be totally faithful and hand over your love. After that, nothing will distract you.
So the scene cuts to Janaka and Vashishta and
yeah, we have a scene with all the elders are sitting there and they're making plans.
Yeah. Shatanand explains all the past events that happened and how Ram and Sita will be married. He says how Ram will only marry Sita after being given permission, which they're looking for now.
So Dasharatha says that he will defer to the priests of the Raghukul clan, Vashishta, in making that decision as to whether or not Ram and Sita should get married. So Vashishta says that a wedding is the coming together of not only two people, but of two societies. Therefore, it's important that Janaka understand the history of the Raghus. And he proceeds to tell Raja Janak of the history of the lineage and about their traditions of the Raghukul clan. And then he asks not only for Sita, but he also asks for Urmila for Lakshmana.
So Janak agrees. Janak agrees to this, and Vishwamitra cuts in, saying how Ram and Lakshman will go on to Ayodhya married, but not Bharat and Shatrughan. This isn't right. He says that King Shankasha, Janak's younger brother, had 2 daughters, and he would like to have them married to the other 2 princes.
Mm-hmm. So this is turning out to be a very exciting day for a lot of people, that they started this day not even thinking they were going to get married, and all of a sudden everybody's getting married.
Mm-hmm. Janak thanks Vishwamitra for his proposal.
And you notice he just tells his brother.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't ask him or anything. He just tells him, hey, by the way, your 2 daughters are going to be marrying his 2 sons, all right? And that's that. There's no no dialogue, no nothing. Yeah.
There's a scene where he turns his head
Yeah, but I mean, this is something, we make a joke about it, but this is the way it used to be. Look, the gurus are the ones that's making all the preparations. These kings, these great individuals have no say. It's whatever the gurus are asking, whatever the gurus are deciding, this is what is happening. These decisions are taken completely out of the children's hands. They're taken completely out of the parents' hands. And it is the gurus are the ones that's controlling everything here. And this is the way that it used to be. Nowadays, you couldn't imagine something like that happening. But this is for real, the way it used to be.
Janak thanks Vishwamitra for his proposal, and they say that they will all get married on the same day.
Mm-hmm.
They tell Dasharath to have the boys complete certain rituals that I cannot pronounce, so that they can begin the rituals.
Yeah, so he tells them to perform the Gaudan ceremony for their benefit. And Gaudan means the giving of a cow. Right? So I'm sure when they give cows, they're not given 1 cow. They're probably given thousands of cows to Brahmins. Mm-hmm. And all of that. So that's a part of the beginning rituals for the wedding. Yeah, so the next scene, we see Urmila and Sita Mata and Mandavi and Shrutakirti. The 4 of them are there and they're talking, and then all the maidservants rush in and they're so excited. Now, think about Sita is the only one that knows that she's getting married at this point, and all these maidservants show up and tell them that, hey, I just heard that all of you is getting married.
But guess what?
Yeah. I couldn't even imagine what they were going through when they heard that in their head.
So yeah, they were informed that they're all going to get married to the 4 brothers, and the wedding is already the wedding's being arranged. And that was the end of the episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I said, it was a very talky episode. There wasn't a whole lot of actual events happening. It was really just the preparations for the wedding. So what stood out to you in this episode?
The respect that the kings had for each other, how they kept going back and forth. They kept making sure to let each other know, I have this much respect for you.
Yeah, so I'm close to that. I have the respect that was given to the gurus and the priests that were there. The guru's word was taken so much higher than what the kings had to say or what the families had to say. So that really stood out to me, the level of respect given to the gurus. Is there anything in particular that you liked about the episode?
Bharat and Shatrughan. I like that, what's the word? Their goofiness, they just looks like they had a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you remember the first episode when Guru Vashishta was reading the Patras, and he said that Raam and Lakshman will be inseparable and Bharat and Shatrughan will be inseparable. And here we see in that. For me, I liked seeing, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but I like seeing Bharat and Shatrughan for the first time and seeing their interaction with everybody.
I feel like whenever I hear about the 2 of them, I haven't heard much of them in the past, and so it's nice seeing this much.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll get a little bit more. We'll get some more as it goes on. Is there anything that you disliked about it?
what I was saying earlier about the subtitles and stuff, it was hard to keep up with what they were saying and understand
Well,
it.
I think when it comes to subtitles, though, we can't really blame, the production company for that. That's whoever it is was producing them subtitles. A lot of times those are auto-generated and so on. So I don't know who's really responsible for that. As for disliked, I mean, I think I already talked about it before. I thought it was very talky. I felt they were kind of dragging out the episode in some places. And I think that's why they got that low IMDb score. For me, I would have rated it a little bit lower than that. The thing is, I'm the guy that was complaining all the time about, them rushing it. And now they went the completely opposite way and they just dragged it out. So I would probably give it a 7 out of 10 if I had to rate it. We are fully aware that there are people that listen to our podcast and they don't watch the show. We like it if you watch the show, but at the same time, we take the responsibility of narrating the Ramayan very seriously. We try to include everything and give different perspectives as much as we can, but we still miss things. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have differing understandings or if you want to add anything. If you find that we've forgotten something, don't hesitate to let us know. We love discussing this stuff, and we would consider it a privilege to be a part of that conversation. You can always reach out to us at thehindupod@gmail.com, or you can message us on our Facebook page. Just search for The Hindu Pod on Facebook. This has been a presentation of The Hindu Pod. Please remember to like, share, follow, and rate this episode, since this helps to bump us up in the feeds, which helps others to find the podcast. Please send comments and suggestions to thehindupod@gmail.com. You can text or call us at 281-804-9616. You can search Facebook for The Hindu Pod. If you live in the Houston area, you can find us on most Sundays at the Sanatan Dharam Mandir for Sunday morning satsang. We are located at 12918 Player Street, Houston, Texas 77045, and are open on Sunday mornings at 10 o'clock. We are sponsored by HinduHandcrafts.com. Please visit HinduHandcrafts.com for Hindu religious-based items such as framed pictures, wall plaques, tapestries, t-shirts, clocks, and so on. They are perfect for puja use, home decor, or gifts. And until next time, Jai Shri Ram.